Hi, Eli and Maddie. Daddy here again. Um, I was just looking over my professional resume for want of anything better to do. Um, and the reason why I haven't done this before is because as you do each job, you add the next one on. You don't ever particularly count them up, but I just did. And I've just turned 42 in March. We're now in April. And I have sung 26 roles, which I was pretty happy about. 11 oratorios, and as a music director, I've done 21 shows. So that comes to just over 50, which is pretty fun, I think, and pretty good actually for my age. Um, but the crazy story concerns, well, there's many crazy performing stories, but this particular one is the most recent, which is Harrow Opera's Un ballo in maschera, or A Masked Ball. And when this whole global pandemic broke out, we had literally, and I'm not joking, literally got to the night before the opening dress rehearsal. So we had done an inordinately long um, rehearsal period of 6 months for a huge show. I mean, big Verdi opera. And we got to the night before, and that's when. And we already had some of the fittings up in the theatre, the big chandelier for the ball scene in the Masked Ball, and various other things. And before we got shut down, or rather, before the government ordered theatres to go dark. So yeah, um, but of course, I'm not only uh, a singer and a musician. I also do books as well. Um, this was my very first book that I was in, and I was particularly pleased with this because it's hardback, and it was the first book I was ever published in, and it meant that I'd beaten my mother into hardback, and of course my mum had been a writer since 1984, I think was her first published book, and this, let's have a look, this came out in 1997. So I was very pleased about that, and needless to say, she wasn't. I've been in lots and lots of other things, like this one, for example. I'm a featured author in here, and I was quite pleased because I get the very last biog. Out of all the people contributors, I get the last biog, which I was quite pleased about. But this is my first solo book, um, just me, no one else involved. Very pretty picture on the back there. And one of the things I learned from reading about the great actor Marlon Brando was that apparently on every biography for his early theatre productions, he would say he was born in a different country or different place. And for this book, I was apparently born in Yemen. I don't know if you can see that. It says Ezra Williams was born in Yemen, which of course is not true. I was born in Leeds. But I thought that was quite fun. I've also been in a few films, but the one that I really enjoy, although no one else does, is a film directed by a good friend of mine now called Steve Poulakeris, and it's called Harness Your Immensity. And in it, I play a character called the Mysterious Dancer. And we filmed this one day in summer in Kensington Gardens, and I did literally have to do what the character is supposed to do, and I had to do this crazy dance. And they had to film it, and literally in Kensington Gardens, that day there must have been about 400 people watching me do a ridiculous dance in the middle of the gardens with a camera crew filming me. And of course, they cut the audio because obviously people were laughing or shouting or clapping or whatever. And it was replaced with a soundtrack after. Um, and but yeah, so that was hard to do and keep concentration while while people shouted stuff at you. But I did it and it was quite fun. The other thing, oh yeah, two last quick things about that film is you might be, when you're older, a Stanley Kubrick fan. And what Kubrick likes to do, particularly in A Clockwork Orange, was he'd do characters' names with a different colour for the titles. And I come up as the mysterious dancer in a bright red background with white lettering, and I thought that was really, really rather lovely. And also, of course, because I don't pretend to be an actor, I've never masqueraded as that. Even as a singer, I'm still an opera singer on stage. I act, but I'm not an actor. But anyway, Steve for the premiere did hire out the cinema, and we watched ourselves on the big screen, which was probably a once in a lifetime happening for me. And that was extraordinary. But I went with my friend Barnaby, and Barnaby was one of the featured musicians on the soundtrack of the movie. Barney's very thin and tall, and yeah, well, he's about my height, but he's very thin. Whereas it took years to finish the film because Steve, I think, self-financed a lot of it. Anyway, so I went with Barney and we watched ourselves on the big screen. Well, I watched myself on the big screen. He heard himself on the big screen. And anyway, so afterwards there was this reception, and this very pretty girl comes up to Barney. Says to Barney, "I loved your role as the mysterious dancer. It's fabulous." Barney kind of glances at me, and I know in that second that if I hadn't been standing right there, he would have claimed full responsibility for that part. But unfortunately, he had to say, "Well, actually, it's this guy who was the mysterious dancer." Anyway, I'll never forget the look of horror as the girl turned to me, who, of course, after a couple of years, I was quite a lot larger than I was in the movie, where I looked very, very slim. They'd also filmed it in silhouette, so I looked much more slender than I possibly was. And yes, anyway, so I'm sure Barney went home with her that night. But yeah, that was just an interesting little titbit from the screening of that movie. And yeah, so more later. And I hope you guys are well and keeping healthy and stay strong. And Daddy loves you always. Bye.